Welcome to the Be Meaningful podcast, an unrehearsed, unscripted conversation about a real brand in real time, with Brian and Bogey, the founders of Meaningful, an agency that helps brands find a meaningful place in the world. In this episode, Bogey spends time with Joy Allen-Altimare, global CMO of Saucony. They discuss how a 126-year-old company known for highly rated running shoes can grow into a fashion and lifestyle brand by doing inventive messaging and creating the type of cues that make a brand cool.
Let's jump in. Let's talk about the brand, Saucony,
Yes.
right? Let's talk about the brand. Let's talk about you. You've joined. It's been what? Roughly a year. Five weeks. 5 weeks. 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Dang. You're jumping in hot. Tell us a little bit about, what I would like to hear more about is maybe a little bit of the background, but really more about what's the dream,
Yeah.
you know?
The dream for me or for Saucony?
Well, both, and as where they integrate, essentially.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm very excited to chat today, Friday. It's 80 degrees. It's my last conversation, and I'm heading to the pool after.
Ooh.
The benefits of living out of the city. There's a pool in my house, so super psyched. Listen, Saucony, like you said, is such an amazing brand, such a beautiful brand, such a brand with a long history. It's 126 years old. And that's important, I think, because there's so many new entrants in the category. People forget the strength of a brand that's been around for so long.
Yeah.
I think it's experiencing a moment at this inflection point where the category itself of footwear, particularly running and kind of this run lifestyle we'll call, is really, I think in some parts of the country, in some parts of the world, it's always been there. It's always been like people who were, sneaker culture's always existed. I think Complex will say, of course.
Right.
Sneakerheads have always existed in some fashion. But I think what we're seeing on the mainstream is this adoption and this interest across different demographics to have really amazing fashion in sneakers. And I think there's levels to it, right? But I think the thing that Saucony has tapped into is its own authentic voice, particularly in the product space, about how to bring that to market, to have unique collaborations with individuals, both in the performance world, like Minted, and then more in the culture, like J-Tips. I think that it's unique for a brand to be able to do both and still maintain its authenticity and do it in a way that it feels right to the consumer group that they're going after. So I think the dream for Saucony is to continue to be very intentional about what we're doing and how we're doing it, so that we don't get distracted by the noise that sometimes can come, so many different voices of what we should do. I think that I'm lucky to have a president like Rob Griffiths, and I have a great partner and my chief product officer, Brian Moore. They know footwear and they know sneakers very well. And so I'm lucky to come into a category where I have very limited footwear experience, to have that strength and power in both the actual product, but then also the category, and then also our retail partners. They know that space very well, to be able to be a true marketer and know consumers. Married with that, I think that's like the prize, to have this kind of trio of minds working together and then leading this awesome team that have been with us for a while. So some new hires, but some have been with us for a while. And I think for me, the dream right now is to continue to, when you're only here for 5 weeks, to continue to learn and immerse yourself, but then also start to, I think I've been doing this for 25 years. So at this point in your career, you want to balance like understanding, like you see things pretty quickly and clearly, but you want to balance that with gaining knowledge around ways in which the organization works, but also ways in which this consumer may pivot really quickly. Like the things with trends and fashion and brands, consumers, they're unpredictable. So you want to like balance. My goal is to balance like I'm naturally curious about consumers, so continue to maintain that curiosity so that I don't kind of get over my skis and like, oh, this is a
Mm-hmm.
typical marketing thing. Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
particularly when you're dealing with this kind of category, you got to stay open and stay fresh. And that's kind of my goal.
Nice. Well, it's interesting, the sneaker culture, right? It's always been around, but it's picked up, as you said,
Yeah.
in the last what, 5 years,
I
six
mean, I
years.
think some people would say like, oh, COVID, COVID, go into this like athleisure,
Yeah, yeah,
less
yeah.
formal. And I think there's some truth to that, right? But like, particularly in America, people are going back to work and they definitely are
Yeah,
dressing up more. I think in
yeah,
Europe, they always still dressed up. I
yeah.
don't think
Well,
they,
Europe,
you know,
Europeans are crazy.
so I think like, yeah, I think the last 5 years, more and more people have
Yeah,
accepted this fashion world around sneakers, but you still have your, like, let's not be crazy. There's still diehard sneakerheads that love certain shoes, that
yeah,
follow them, that wait till they drop, that put them in beautiful clear boxes and never wear them. And then
yeah,
there's some that are like a little bit more like it's got to be, have some utility to it. And so
yeah,
I think the world in general is looking for, I would say, functional fashion that's still
hmm,
fashion. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's what we can play a lot.
yeah. So let me ask you this. It's interesting because one of the questions that Brian and I had when we were taking a look at it is how much of the focus is fashion, right?
Yeah.
Lifestyle, as
Yeah.
opposed to, athletics, running.
Yeah.
And so we noticed there's 3 logos on the
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
One of them, right, is focused more on running. One is more like on walking and hiking. And now there's this lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
So what's with the 3 versions of the logo?
Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, some of them are product logos versus brand logos. And so,
Oh,
again, we're a 125-year-old brand. So the logo looked one way. If you look at like the original Jazz, it looked one way. And then as you go into like the endorphin, like our core 4 and endorphin elite, which is really our rooted performance
hmm,
shoe, it looks kind of different on the shoe. So those are, I think they're product logos, or we call them franchise. So stories is what we call the shoes.
oh, nice.
um, they have different feel because of what we're trying to communicate, like in performance,
Hmm.
propel, moving forward, etc., which is very different from 126 years ago when they used the Jazz as runners. It was a different thing. But the
Right,
thing about
right.
our logos is there's continuity, right? So the story of Saucony is, it was a Pennsylvania-based company. It was about 2 individual rivers coming together with these 3
Hmm.
kind of boulders. The
Oh,
Saucony,
wow.
Saucony comes from, right? So we tell that story on our website so people can understand,
Yeah,
like, that's the meaning of the logo. Regardless of that,
yeah,
I would think of it as less of 3 different logos, but an articulation and evolution over time
yeah,
of that kind of story. So it's like celebrating the individuality of like 2 separate, but coming together as a community, which really speaks to what we are going to be talking a lot about in the next couple of years, of celebrating the art of individuality, but also creating a space for community, because run culture is dialing up into run
hmm,
communities, when we see these run crews locally popping up. And then you
hmm,
still have the 3 dots, which are the 3 boulders that exist with where the streams kind of unite it. So yeah, it's less about like this exercise. And yeah, like, I'm a true marketer, so obviously I was like, hey, we have multiple logos. But then I was like, oh, okay, no, it's an evolution and articulation of
yeah,
the space in which we play. And over time, we may figure out like maybe this is the one like brand logo that we use. But I think our consumers are used to seeing like the logo represented in the actual franchise in a different way. And I think it's something that they embrace.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Let me. That's actually kind of very interesting because you have that origin story
Yeah.
that is very, very like native almost like, and
Yeah.
so it's like, whoa, that's cool. There's something we could do there. Let me ask you this. So on the website you have one of the world's, and I'm just going to paraphrase here, one of the world's leading running companies, a legacy of performance, best in class running shoes and apparel, timeless retro footwear. um, and you back that up because you have, we did some searches of like, what are the best running shoes, Boom. There it is. Saucony's, right? But how does that make you different from Asics,
Yeah.
Adidas, Nike?
We're
And I know.
we're the original running shoe. I think if you keep going down our website, you see that. It says
Mm-hmm,
the original running shoe. We can say that because we,
mm-hmm.
like I said, we have a 126-year heritage. That's what it's proven. We
So
can't go back.
you want to double down into that. You want to that's what you're part of your vision, right?
I think that part of what I listen, again, 5 weeks, so still trying to evolve what it is. But if I have to say today, I think we have to. So a little background on me. I was a
Yeah.
swimmer. I grew up as an athlete. I did endurance training. I wore Saucony when I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, all the way through
Oh
college.
wow.
So I had a huge relationship
Oh
with
wow. Okay.
my dad was a triathlete, so I understood Saucony
Ooh.
intimately. His really good friend owned one of the run specialty stores in our town. So I grew up. I had like a summer job unpacking boxes that said Saucony. So it's not a new brand for me. I have an
Yeah.
intimate relationship with it and respect for it. So I understand that our heritage is performance. Like performance runners, elite runners, marathoners, 10Ks, they know Saucony and they know our, like
Yeah.
to your earlier point, we can say that because the science is proven. Like our tech is
Yeah.
unparalleled.
Yeah.
People know that.
Yeah.
And I have a healthy respect having now I spent a whole day with our product team
Yeah.
and they walked me through like how the shoe is made, the midsole, all the pieces, like the foam and the different composition
Yeah.
of the foam per shoe. So not just core 4 and endorphins, which is our
Mm-hmm.
focus, but Kinvara and like all of the shoes that we have in our back catalog, like why are they different? Like when I tell you, I've worked in many categories. I've worked in beauty, I've worked in
Yeah.
fashion, I've worked in health. When I tell you that this team, I'm not talking about product design, I'm talking about product, creating it. This
Yeah.
team,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can't imagine that I spoke to them for almost 6 hours, right? Because that's how much, and I have to go back for 2 more sessions because
Yeah.
that's how that's how much tech we put in the
Yeah.
shoes,
Yeah.
and it's respective
Yeah.
at a category. So yeah, we
Yeah.
say it pretty cavalier, but it really is the heritage of the brand. So when you think about our lifestyle, not extensions, but our lifestyle segments of our shoes, that again, all of our lifestyle designs are built on a chassis of a performance shoe, so it looks good but feels good too. Yeah, we're the only people that I honestly believe that can say that with confidence, or as the street would say, like say it with your chest. Like we say
Yeah.
it and we
Yeah.
stand
Yeah.
on it because it's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. You need to be able to kind of stand out, right?
Yeah.
And how does that work? That works on cues, right? People take cues, and that's how they receive that information. And so these external cue dependencies. Well, what could be? What kind of cues can you be sending people? And so one of the thoughts were like, okay, so it's the 3 circles, right? They represent, right? The stream, represents performance, health, community. You talked a little bit about that, but it's abstract, right? So who actually knows that? So how do you make that tangible, right? How can you make these ideals be part of the brand experience, not just brand initials or initiatives?
I mean, that's the fundamental question
Yeah.
that brands have. So Nike has a swoosh. When it came out, first of all, who knew
Yeah.
what Nike meant, right? When it came out.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
the swoosh even more, right? If we think about that, and then just do what? Right? So brands have meaning after people have given it meaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Iconography has
Yeah.
meaning after someone has defined and given it meaning. But
Mm-hmm.
there, as a
Mm-hmm.
marketer, there's also this thin line of not defining it for people, but having
Mm-hmm.
some sort of vagueness around it. As a marketer, I always find it interesting. We do a lot of work around brand tone, brand pillars, brand positioning, brand personality, and some
Yeah.
of that is internal to keep us cohesive so we can move quickly through the work we have to do. Because if product and sales and marketing,
Mm-hmm.
if we are not clear, then it's going to look disjointed, right?
Yeah.
But there is
Yeah.
a part of marketing as a CMO that I always say, like, we have to leave room for the market to tell us.
Okay.
Have to. If you want to be a brand that's relevant and not switching all the time, you have to stand for something, but also leave room for response. It's like a conversation, right? You can't always be talking. You have to leave room to listen, for the person to respond. And so I think really smart, true, loving, like marketers are curious. They're naturally curious about consumers. And so they naturally lean into this. Okay, I'm okay with not defining it all to the end from A to Z. I want to leave that space so the market can tell me what it needs, what it wants, so that I can see if I can authentically meet that. And if I can't, then I'm going to still be myself, right? That's a choice you make. I think where brands get, where sometimes brands make a misstep, if we want to even call it that, is when they try to be all things to all people, and when they try to define themselves, there's no space for consumer feedback, for consumer perspective. Because now you put yourself in a box, in a place that you can never evolve, because consumers change their mind. Consumers, like, trends come and go. So, I think I give Saucony a lot of credit. They've had this iconography and visual language for over 100 years, and it's still relevant. It still has had an opportunity to receive consumer feedback and make meaning for the consumer. So you still have a lot of work to do, obviously.
Well, I mean, it's day one for you, right? So
not even and then also, like, the brand still has a lot of work to do as it relates to this new space we're going after. We're really moving away from this historically older consumer to this more fresh, relevant consumer that will grow with us, hopefully.
Well, we were talking right before we started recording. Like, we're talking that you were watching the Olympics, right? And
I'm still watching the Olympics.
They're still
gold medal battle is happening now between Japan
and it's breakdance.
And it's breakdancing.
Breakdancing.
And it's been
they're wearing our shoes.
It's been on for 5 hours. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's longer than track and field.
Right. Oh man, that's cool. One of the things I like, so there's two thoughts. First thought, when you were talking about that, it reminded me of, like, Inception, the movie Inception, right? Dream within a dream, right? So it's like you create the architecture of the dream, but the dreamer fills in the details with their subconscious. So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
I mean, isn't that what most people are attracted to brands where they feel like they had a voice in it, right? So you have to give for that, right? No one wants to be prescribed to. It's like, you mentioned Inception. I mentioned, it's kind of going to be a little controversial, but I mentioned The Devil Wears Prada, and there's a scene in that movie where the Anne Hathaway character is observing the group talk about basically having an argument around the color blue. And if you remember in the scene, the Anne Hathaway character laughs as they talk about different shades. And she's quickly schooled on the fact that you think you chose the blue that you're wearing, that you purchased at some, I think there's a little shade given to her, but you purchased at this off-price place, but it was chosen for you 18 months ago by the people in this room. And so I think that is, like, most marketers would say, like, the perfect place is to be where the consumer feels like they were part of it, and you want them part of it, right? To give that feedback. So it's not prescribed to them, but there is an introduction to it, because we know you so well, and we know what you want, and we know what you're craving, that when you're ready, it's there. And, like, that's what we all are striving to do, to, like, give the dreamer that 20% that they own, right? From an Inception point of view, but also to make sure that we're thinking through, like, what they would want and build it so it's there. Like, that's how the greatest ideas have come about. People have thought, like, what do people want tomorrow? Not what did they want yesterday? What do they want tomorrow?
Right.
Build it and have it ready for them. And then when you can get more people excited about it, true marketing, telling more people it's out there, then that's when it explodes.
So I came across it was an advertising campaign, so I guess it came across me, but Kith.
Kith.
Did you see that latest one with what's his name, John? I can never say his last name correctly, but Leguizamo. I can never say his name.
Yes.
Leguizamo, yeah.
him.
Oh my gosh, I love that campaign.
That's not the face of Kid. How is that the face of? Tell me how's the face of Kid? How is it not me?
No, I haven't seen the campaign you're talking about. I'll have to look at it after this. But no, if it's John Leguizamo, he's amazing. He's also a New Yorker, so we love him.
Well, right. But I truly love, like, how to be cool. It's a fun video that signals desire to be part of a brand, right? And so you're mimicking desire, that's interesting.
He's like that's genius to cast him too. He's great. I'm gonna watch the whole thing.
But there's like a whole series of people that get cast into this short film. It's like, what is it? A 4-minute film, 4.5-minute film. And you just like, you get it. You're like, oh, that's funny. That is funny.
This is what I love, that you watch the whole 4 minutes, right? There's always this like back and forth with brand builders and marketers. Like, no one wants to watch a short film. And I argue, like, everybody loves storytelling. Like, that's what we're really doing with advertising. That's what we're really doing with like social. Why are people on TikTok for 5 hours? Because they're looking at all these different stories, right? There's a whole other thing there too. But I think my point is, like, people crave good stories, and there's so many bad ones out there that when you get a good one, like, you remember it. Like, you just quoted 4 minutes and 24 seconds of an ad that really was not an ad. It was really more of a brand moment.
Yeah.
Right.
But for us, that's level 1. That's like basic.
Yeah.
Level 2 is now you've created a desire for a brand, right? And then now you want to be part of that brand.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes into this whole lifestyle. This is no longer just performance. This is now, you lean in and you tap it into the whole trend.
Yeah.
Another thought, I don't know if you, Monteau Rothschild labels. Have you heard of that? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's a wine.
No, but
I Google this. You should know wine. This. Brian would talk about this I'm putting this in the chat. I'm putting this in the chat, but Google that real quick. So this is a wine brand. They allowed artists to create the labels.
Oh yeah, but that's not a new thing.
I know it's not a new thing.
I used to work in spirits, and we had a big vodka I worked for, and we did a beautiful thing.
Is there anything new under the sun? Come on.
There's no new idea. but there is a new. There's no new idea, but there's a different way to present it. So, but I do love.
Right.
I do love that.
Because we took a look at, what was it? I wrote down the shoe. I absolutely love the shoe. The Shadow 5000, designed in Venice, yellow multi. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful shoe. And so that all kind of, like, imagine that being played out, right? That's huge.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It just, there's so much rich opportunity there for a brand, not only like a visual but an experience, right?
I love the shout out to the Shadow 5000. It is a beautiful shoe.
It is a beautiful shoe, right?
We see people wearing it all the time.
And then another question is like, okay, well, what if you double down into this, right? And then what if you talk about the actual website experience, right? So if we want to look cool, right? If we want to be part of this lifestyle brand, why do we have our website look like everyone else? And a big shout out to Essence. I don't know if you ever go on Essence.
Yeah, all the time.
But they double down on the visuals, and you just see this beautiful photography, no noise, no nothing else. And imagine if that's what, Saucony's website would look like.
I think that's an astute observation. Use an SAT word. Listen, your brand is beyond just the images that you put out there to pull people through. I think we have so much opportunity to tell. It goes back to telling greater stories. What you're talking about is the Essence site where there's no pop-ups because they want to focus you on
There's no pop-ups, there's no nothing. Yeah. It's just the product. And then if you were to do, it's because what you're doing is you're basically recreating a better shelf experience on the website, right? Yeah. Close up, scroll.
Everyone is trying to do that, right?
Yeah.
But they're also competing with e-com is such a unique space.
Oh, I know.
I love it.
I know.
I love it. Because I feel like you're trying to, we're going to get into such a huge conversation. So it is part of the brand, right? It's probably the most or essential part of the brand because people Google first.
Yeah.
Search trends today have changed so much since 10 years ago.
Right.
So people get to you and they like you said, you looked at the Shadow 5000, like you are Googling that. You're not Googling Saucony, and then it takes you to that page or whatever. And so e-com is not for the faint of heart because number one, it's less than 2 decades old, right? We've been having people purchase.
Right.
At first it was information education, and now it's like purchase. It also exists in the ecosystem around CRM, and you have all these people, you have an email or SMS text message, or now it's embedded in TikTok or Instagram, and then you're clicking and you're purchasing on e-com. And so what you just described, like most people don't go to the homepage to start, but you have to have a homepage. And some people are just, there is a group of people that would argue that category dependent or specific, they're just going to purchase. They were already told the story in another vehicle. They were told the story in Instagram.
It's the final stage conversion at this point.
Them. So we call that programmatic, right? That's performance marketing. And so it's like just convert them really quickly. You don't want to lose them. But then some argue discovery is a huge part of purchasing. Discovering. And so you see a person on the street and you ask them what is that, and they say, oh, these are Sauconys. And you go and you just Google Saucony, and then you get to the homepage, and that's how we entice you and embrace you and engage you. So I say e-com is not for the faint of heart, because the website in isolation isn't. People don't often just go to the website. They've been influenced by other things. And so where does the story on the website, where does that make the most sense? We're still figuring it out. I think every brand is. What's the ratio of storytelling versus converting to the product? Because all of this costs money, right? And so we're always
absolutely
up against like an ROI, these ROAS targets. So all of it is like, I want the website, to use your phrase, to be a focused experience that is better than an in-store retail experience in some instances, so that they can actually make the best choice. And also so I can learn from them first-party data, right? What are they interested in? But on average, I have less than a minute for them to be on the site. So I need to convert them.
I think that's the other problem. I think the problem is it's a broader conversation about data and metrics, and we've paralyzed ourselves. We've paralyzed ourselves with all this data and metrics, and we don't know what to do. And we forgot like the human part. There's a human being looking at it. Oh, you do. I'm sorry.
Like I always say, like this whole trend of AI is super important, but AI is only as important as the human element of it, right? You have to marry this automation with human insight, human feelings, human touch, human like perspective. So I think I use data as an enabler, as a marketer. I don't use it as a way to make decisions for me, but I use it as a way to enable me to be smarter and have a fuller picture of what I'm doing. So don't be paralyzed by data, and don't be you still most good marketers use it to understand the marketplace, but still they leverage their gut. You know?
Well, it's like you say, like, okay, according to data, not you, but in general, people say, right? According to data, you need a minute needs to be a video needs to be 45 seconds long or 15 seconds long. But here we have an example where we watch, four and a half minutes worth of a video content, and we kept on watching.
But the data will tell you this. The data will tell you that you can't self-reference because you were doing research, right? But the data will tell you that 4-minute video.
Did you just cancel me?
No. I'm just saying, like, every time someone in my team, or even I sometimes, I'm like, I can't self-reference. Number one, I'm a marketer, and number two, I'm not many. So, but the data will tell you that 4-minute video was created for moments of discovery, as well as for the consumer late night. right? When they are just on their phone taking mindless banter and they love, let's say you love Kith and you're just like, what's new with Kith? And you Google it and then, oh my gosh. And then you send it, it was created to also be shareable, to have
Well,
that
yeah.
consumer who loves Kith to send it out to all their friends as a
Yeah.
badge of coolness. Cause it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if you're the key influencer, you
Yeah.
still want to be the person to introduce people to the thing that you think is cool. So that they would say it wasn't created for mainstream, because Kith isn't for mainstream. It was created, and it wasn't created for all day visibility or digestion. It was created for those moments where you maybe are like this with with a glass of wine, with a glass of what did you say, Russia? You're like, let me just look, and you're like, oh my gosh, and you send it, and that's equally important as your 30-second ad. It's equally important because in the funnel, in the full funnel experience, it's at the top. It's so important. And most brands, sometimes they forget that full funnel experience and that everything isn't for everybody at the moment of the period we think it is. So yeah, I love it.
That's why I've it's something I've picked up and learned, but like along the ways in being in the industry is the whole idea of top down, bottom up approach.
Yeah.
You have to think through the brand strategy. What's the message? What are you trying to say, right? Values, and then how do you, put that into a narrative within the context, but then also, bottom up of how does that actual product page that has add to cart or buy now look like? The UX and the UI of it. So, because it's both. You can't think of it individually. So is that then the goal? Do we want to be on the Hypebeast ranking?
I think some people in the organization would be like, yes, that's their goal, particularly our beautiful lifestyle product team. I think that they want that recognition and they deserve it. But I think I'm a marketer. If anybody ever goes to my LinkedIn, I think the first words are revenue driven marketer. So yeah, I think all those things have a halo effect to my ultimate goal, which is to increase brand love, brand loyalty. We have amazing loyalty, so I shouldn't even say increase it. So I really want to increase the brand love and awareness of
I think
Saucony.
awareness, yeah.
And then hopefully that helps us grow as a company, grow as a team. Like that's my goal, is to make sure that, because I think you asked me this before we really started. It's a luxury to walk in as a CMO knowing that we have superior product. Sometimes you don't get that as your feed.
Well, that's the worst part, right? It's always a superior product that gets buried underneath all the other noise, right?
Because we're in some ways we've been purists to like the material story, and I love that. And now it's like let's tell people that we've been purists, so that because consumers love that you know exactly what you built and you can tell them. They love that. So let's not be shy about how much time we've spent on developing and how much dedication the team has on creating this amazing product.
You're ready for your
I can't help it.
Wait, say it again. You're a lover? What'd you say?
I'm a lover of it. I can't help it. Like I've been in marketing for almost 25 years, and I've had some really amazing jobs. I love every job I've had, but this one, even in 5 weeks, I know like this one's gonna have, when I look sounds old, when I look back on my life, this one is gonna have a positive story. Like this is a moment of inflection for me too. To be so excited about what you're working on.
It's your mark. You have an opportunity to leave a mark, right? And so that's a huge opportunity.
I think leaving a mark is one part of it, but also like how it's going to make me, like how it's going to impact me. Like, yes, I want to have impact, but I'm so like, at this point in your career, if you're not working on something that excites you, like what are you doing? And I'm so excited about like the possibility. I just had a great conversation with our director of ecom, our VP of ecom. I'm probably messing up her title, but she's the most senior person on ecom. And we had a call for an hour, and it was like, it ebbed and flowed between like the actual work and then the actual like potential and then the actual like synergies we have as working
nice.
mothers, and like that's rare. Like it's a rare thing to have. So yeah, I'm just excited about all of it.
That's
all
awesome.
of it.
Oh my gosh, your energy. I absolutely love it.